Hello friends. Today we have a retelling of the movie 1.5 Spy. 1996. A fat man named Roby sings his favorite song while taking a school shower. A gang of school bullies grabs a boy and pulls him out of the shower. At the same time, in the gym of the same school, the farewell of students to the educational institution takes place. Local budding sports star and Kelvin, nicknamed the Golden Rocket, gives a fiery speech. The doors of the gym open and a company of guys in their arms drags the fat man, throwing him onto the slippery floor of the basketball court. Now all the attention of the audience switch from Kelvin to Robbie. Everyone taunts the fat man by pointing fingers at him. Kelvin hands the boy his jacket so he can cover himself. 20 years after this incident, Kelvin works as a regular accountant. His career in sports did not work out. The guy is married to Maggie, whom he met in his school years. On Facebook, Kelvin receives a notification that the evening of the reunion of graduates is coming soon, which he doesn't really want to go to. Kelvin sees an unfamiliar name Bob Stone when opening a new notification about pros against friends. In the message that the stranger sends, it is said that he is the same fat Robbie who suggests that Kelvin meet at the bar and hang out. The guy does not believe his eyes as Robbie turned from a fat man into a huge bodybuilder who scatters 4 guys in a bar who decided to run into old friends. On the street, Kelvin says that this is the coolest evening in his entire life, since his friend has killed 4 men alone. Robbie is glad that Kelvin considers him his friend, offering to ride on a cool motorcycle. Arriving at the school where they studied together a couple of decades ago, the guys look at Kelvin's showcase, which contains all of his awards. Robbie persuades the guy to do his famous high school backflip. Already on the porch of his house, Kelvin says that if Robbie needs his help, he can safely turn to him. Stone immediately asks a friend to look at his payroll accounts, since he himself does not understand this, and Kelvin, with his accounting skills, does not care to figure it out this time. Kelvin examines the incomprehensible bills, which turn out to be bids in some kind of secret auction. He draws attention to the timer, which says that the auction ends in 14 hours. They try to figure out what the strange bills are, but Stone accidentally spills beer on the laptop keyboard. Robbie offers to deal with these accounts tomorrow and asks Kelvin and permission to spend the night with him because they are friends after all. Kelvin goes to work in the morning while Robbie is still asleep. On the threshold, the Rocket meets 3 strangers who introduce themselves as CIA agents, showing Kelvin a photo of Stone. The sofa on which Stone had just slept is already neatly tucked in, and the thug himself has disappeared somewhere. Pamela Harris tells Kelvin that Stone is a CIA agent who is wanted for the murder of his partner named Philosophy. According to Pamela, Stone has in his hands secret information that he wants to sell to criminal gangs, for which he killed Phil, not wanting to share with him. Kelvin decides to help the CIA agent catch Stone, and the Rocket receives a call to his office from Robbie, who asks him to go downstairs, where he will be waiting for him. Pamela, eavesdropping on the conversation with the agents, runs down when Kelvin is left alone in his office. A Stone appears who specially arranged it so that the agents ran to look for him on the lower floors. Stone asks his friend for help, but Kelvin, believing him to be a criminal, runs out of the office and starts yelling that Robbie is in his office. When the CIA agent appears, Stone puts Kelvin in a wheelchair and, accelerating, jumps out of the window with him, falling on a huge inflatable monkey. Stone tells Kelvin that he didn't actually kill anyone. A few weeks ago, a criminal known as the Black Badger stole the access keys for the spy satellites and is now going to auction them off. So Stone needs Kelvin's help to track down the Badger. Stone also wants to get even with Badger for killing his partner Philosophy in an abandoned hangar. Where they stop to remove the GPS tracker from the car, they are attacked by a mercenary hired by Pamela. While the mercenary is distracted by the Stone, Kelvin jumps on a motorcycle and flies to his wife Maggie, who, along the way, makes an appointment with a psychologist whom they were going to go to earlier. In the parking lot, Kelvin is intercepted by Harris, who tells the guy that Stone is a black badger and that he killed his partner Phil to cover up the traces of the theft of access codes from satellites. All that could be found from Phil was his ear. Pamela is sure that Stone needs Calvin, so she hands him a GPS beacon that the rocket should activate as soon as it sees Robbie. Calvin meets with Maggie in the psychologist's office and Stone sits instead. After a short session, Maggie leaves the office, leaving Calvin alone with the psychologist. Stone convinces Rocket that he is not a badger and asks for help to trace an auction payment transaction that will put Stone on the badger's trail. Calvin takes Stone to the financial district where Trevor works, one of the guys who dragged Robbie's head into the gym in 1996 and threw it on the floor. Trevor can get the transaction number because he is a vice president at an international payment company. Despite the fact that the fat man has turned into a hefty jock, Trevor is not at all afraid of him and does not lose the chance to mock these two. A depressed Stone descends in the elevator, leaving Calvin alone, who at that moment is called by Pamela, threatening to arrest Maggie. The Rocket has no choice but to hand over his friend as an agent. Stone is brought to a secret CIA base where Pamela tortures Robbie, intending to find out where the keys to access the satellites. Calvin hears Stone's screams and, feeling guilty, rescues the thug. In the corridors of the base, friends collide with agents, scattering them like Skittles. After stealing an SUV, Stone and Calvin leave the base. In the car, Stone asks the Rocket to get a super CIA phone on which they will track the buyer of the codes, since in fact the transaction number is the GPS encrypted location of the meeting between the buyer and the seller. The deal is done in an underground parking lot in Boston, so the partners hijack the plane. At the parking building, Stone asks Calvin to stay outside while he goes downstairs. A little later, Pamela Harris appears here, which is why Calvin decides that she is the Black Badger. Not getting through to the Stone, Calvin runs to the parking lot where he finds Bob and the buyer of the codes. Stone pulls out a gun and fires at Calvin, slightly wounding him, as in. At the moment, he plays the role of a Black Badger in front of the buyer. Stone holds out a flash drive on which supposedly access codes to satellites, but Phil suddenly appears in the parking lot, which turns out to be a real badger. When Calvin wakes up, a gunfight ensues as a broom with agents appears in the parking lot. Calvin manages to pick up both flash drives. This is noticed by the mafia leader, the same buyer, and pursues Calvin in a car. The Rocket is saved by Stone crashing into the leader's Mercedes a second before he almost crushed Calvin. Rocket takes off running as Stone fired at him. On the bridge, both Stone and Phil catch up with Calvin. A fight breaks out between the former partners. Calvin raises a discarded pistol and fires at Stone. Phil, having taken possession of the gun, reveals himself as a badger. Faked his death. Phil walked away with $500 million. Now he wants to shoot Calvin, but he does his backflip to distract the Feli. Stone cuts the fella out by tearing out his Adam's apple and throwing him into the river. The goon apologizes to Calvin for the shot, but otherwise the thugs in the parking lot would have shot Calvin. Friends on a CIA helicopter arrive at the school where today is a meeting of graduates. Pamela apologizes to Moan for mistaking him for a Black Badger. Harris says that if Calvin wants to work as an agent, he can just call her. Stone, returning to school where he was always bullied, feels terrible and wants to leave, but they announce the king of the evening, which becomes a thug. It's all thanks to Calvin, who hacked the voting results to make Stone the winner. In the hall, everyone looks at the Stone because they do not recognize him until Trevor reveals that this is Robbie. Bullying Stone, Trevor loses consciousness. Having risen to the stage, Stone admits that he is really a Robbie. Stone takes off all his clothes, showing what a mountain of muscles he has become. Everyone loves this guy. Stone goes down to the hall where he meets a girl he was in love with in his school years. Sometime after these events, Calvin goes on his first day of work as a CIA agent. He is accompanied by a pregnant Maggie. Near the car, Stone asks Calvin to close his eyes, as he has a gift for a friend. The thug returns to Calvin the same jacket that in the 96th year he handed over to the naked fat man. Thanks for watching to the end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and watch our next videos.